Do you have any opinion, Ben? I don't see any comments.
Yeah, I don't think that there are really any benefits to the township for this to be processed as a full stormwater management site plan. This amount of impervious, if it were a residential use, would not require a modification request, and we have on multiple occasions when the area of disturbance is slightly above 5,000 square feet, we don't require it to be a major stormwater management site plan. And as Steve pointed out, it's a large site. It is very far away from the property lines, and all of any overflow would go into an existing stormwater detention facility. So the potential for downstream property owner damage is extremely minimal. I don't think that there's really any benefit to having this be a major stormwater management site plan.
Okay. And then I'll just add as well, just your question about the conditions. There are only the two other conditions. One was they wanted, the board wanted barbed wire at the top of our fencing surrounding the compound. And then we had shown the access drive being 10 feet wide. The board wanted it 16 feet wide. So we addressed both of those comments as well.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
I assume that barbed wire is for safety.
For safety, exactly.
For the nearby school.
Exactly correct. It's the fence is 8 feet tall, and the climbing pegs essentially are removed from the base of the tower for the first 10 feet. But the board thought about the equipment that might be on the ground as well. Wanted the barbed wire there for safety.
Makes sense.
All right, how does the commission feel about making this an action item?
No objection.
No, you say no objection?
No objection.
Okay, then let's make a motion.
I'll make a motion that we recommend approval to the Board of Supervisors the requested modification request for LTPC 339.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Don't go away, Steve.
Then we will move to subdivision land development plans, and our first item is LTPC 316. Parrick Popeyes, am I saying that correct? Parrick Popeyes, a land development plan, and this is identified as a briefing item.
Bill? Sure. Good evening, Steve Hackett with Site Design Concepts. We're representing Parrick Restaurants on the development of the former PNC Bank in Stone Mill Plaza into a Popeyes. I'm not sure how many of you have been on the Planning Commission for several years. This plan was previously in front of you, received several modification approvals from the board, expired its timeline, and we are back in. But just as a refresher, the PNC Bank has long sat vacant on this parcel. The proposal is to demolish that building in kind, create a new Popeyes restaurant with 2 drive-through lanes, manage stormwater through a subsurface bed, and in terms of improvements to the overall parcel, it will include adding park and ride spaces, cleaning up the existing parking striping to make sure that they are actually extant and that they're not wearing in the community shopping center, creating a access easement to Maple Grove Park. There's currently a driveway there. There was never an easement put in place to favor the township in order to get through the property into the park, creating a future access easement over to WGAL's property. And with the recent development of the Taco Bell, which is this building over here, you can see the line work for that, creating a shared vehicular access easement where that driveway already exists. Really just solidifying that we can get in between those properties. Oh, yes, thanks, Ben. And as a part of the community shopping center requirements, there will also be a community bus shelter placed on site. So that wall that's along the front will be peeled back a little bit, made room for a think it's an 8x12 concrete pad and a shelter. I think that's yours. This one. So this is the enlarged plan. I'm sure you're all very familiar with the way that that comes in the stone mill. We've got the big slope there. We're sitting up above it. Doesn't show the building that's being demolished, but it's generally right in this area. Couple sidewalks making connections down to the giant there, dumpster enclosure, and there will be street trees and some landscaping put in as a part of this.
I would suggest describing the 2 ordering lanes and the
Sure.
1 pickup lane.
Yeah, so there's one primary drive-through lane here. I don't know how familiar you are with the Popeyes brand or how they typically do their restaurants, but it's been their standard that after you get about 3-4 cars in, you have an option to go through 2 lanes there. So there's actually 2 ordering windows where you can place your order, and then it merges back into 1 lane for the pickup on the way out.
And that's exactly the same as the Taco Bell restaurant that just reopened. So if I may, Steve?
Sure, man.
This layout and the improvements are exactly what was approved previously. However, that approval expired because they failed to meet the conditions of approval and get all their administrative things together, their agreements and so on and so forth. So they have resubmitted a full set of plans. The modifications, though, that were previously approved, they don't have an expiration date in the same way that the plan approval does. So they're not asking for any more modification requests. Those still stand. So really, it's just an approval, if you will, either tonight or next month's meeting. But I feel that the same conditions that needed to be met still apply. Let's get all your agreements together, get the signed plans together, get it recorded so you can get your building permit. But we need to go through the steps of Planning Commission review, consideration, and Board of Supervisors. Angie, I think you were here for the previous approval. Deb, were you here?
Yes.
Was anyone else part of that? So if y'all have questions about the Stone Mill Plaza shopping center as a whole or this Popeyes project, please feel free to ask those questions. If you're comfortable just going, recommending reapproval of the plan that was approved before, that's fine too. They do have their ENS control plan approval from the Conservation District. So I think we're in relatively good shape at this point, but we do need to go through the process of your consideration and then board approval.
And if I could just speak to, just so everybody's clear as to what the hangup was, there was an issue securing a letter of credit for the bond requirement for the public improvements to not let us submit a bond. That was resolved, and I think the remainder of the comments at this point are more into changing words and agreements and having them re-signed and redating our plans than they are technical.
Yep.
So we were close, but could not pull off.
I have 2 questions. The first is a clarification.
Sure.
Am I reading correctly? Any parking is on the west side, and then the drive-through lanes and everything, that would all be cars moving. There's no parking
No,
over on
there's no
that side?
parking around the
That's-
facility at all. Yeah, no.
And then either,
You do have a bypass if you need to get past
Okay.
it though. So if for whatever reason this was absolutely packed and you could see that, you wouldn't want to necessarily
Yeah,
get
that-
in line.
yeah.
You can swing around.
or
Yeah.
you get in line and you have an emergency, you have to get out
Right,
for some reason.
right.
Like there is an exit, there's a way to.
Yes, there is.
To
Yep.
get out, okay. Then my other question, and maybe this is more, I don't know, about the property, and just remind us of the relationship, like the easement over WGAL. How does that all fit
If I
together
may,
with
Steve,
Go ahead,
the
Ben.
property?
since I think I was kind of driving the bus a little bit on that.
Sure, yeah, but it's all related to, yeah, requirements of zoning.
So the zoning ordinance requires for a community shopping center to have pedestrian access to its adjoining properties. And that's tricky, because in this one, you've got a really steep slope at this point. You know, that entrance drive from the west coming up goes right up that hill. And it's difficult to consider putting a walking path through there. So the township actually installed on Maple Grove Park property a set of stairs to allow pedestrians coming from the west to go through the park property, go up some stairs, and then the shopping center took it upon themselves then a couple years ago to connect a little sidewalk here. They want pedestrians to become customers. They want people to come into their shopping center. So that brings them in. Maybe if they go this way, maybe they go another way, but then we also need to have a connection through to the land on the east, that's WGAL. So sure, you could walk through Taco Bell and go down the driveway, and maybe someday we'll get a sidewalk that way, but the shopping center itself needs to provide pedestrian access. So we requested at least an easement, because we don't know what we might be able to get or where or when out of WGAL. That whole use is a question of how much longer they are going to occupy such a large expanse of land in a very prominent location. We just don't know what's going to happen. So we wanted to at least have this pedestrian access, that the township could come in and, if we chose to, install pedestrian improvements there. We're not obligating the shopping center to do it, and we're certainly not obligating Popeyes to install those pedestrian improvements, because we just don't know when, what, or how that's going to work. So that's why we requested an easement only, which we felt was fair, and
Right.
y'all did comply. Does that make sense?
Yeah, did you want to
Oh,
talk about
did
that
you-
one at all?
did you-
I kind of mentioned it.
Did you want to discuss this access easement at the end of at the end of Elm Avenue?
Okay.
There's an existing driveway that goes down around the basin. You'd think we would have gotten an easement at some point. We never did. So we just asked the shopping center, and they were shocked too that there is no easement allowing it, and they kindly granted it to us. So we got that taken care of as well.
And that's associated with this plan?
Well,
Or that's
it-
just something else?
It
that
would be
happened?
recorded along with this land development plan.
So we're recording these easements with this plan?
Correct.
Because it's just timely, it's timely?
It's timely, yes.
It's also, if I may, you're touching the entire parcel.
Yeah.
So this is the time where the subdivision land development ordinance would apply.
Correct.
Or the zoning ordinance would apply, even though we're only doing a kind of a pad site.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions?
I say this with all due respect, Steve, because I know you're a good engineer.
Thank you.
I hate the traffic for if cars are gonna back up the driveway queue, they're gonna end up in a turn right adjacent to the parking. It feels there's a choke point right there. So someone coming in from the street, from Columbia Ave, comes into the center and wants to go to Popeyes, they have to make a left there. They come down, and they make an immediate left and an immediate right. And that little section there, the left and the quick left and the right, feels in heavy use times is gonna be an issue. Because any queue that gets backed up to there, you're now blocking that whole access point to the Taco Bell.
They could always park and then walk to it.
That's not gonna happen.
Well, I will say, I mean, I don't know how the Taco Bell's traffic is performing, but I will say that the traffic summary report that we had generated for this use, it is not going to be like a Chick-fil-A. It is likely not going to be like a Taco Bell. I understand your concern. We are a little limited in the space that we can actually effectively lay this out. I will say it's a positive that this entire access is one way. So conceptually, if you do get to that point, I can't remember who asked, I think it was you, Angie, about getting around it. But conceptually, if you do get to that point, it is backed up and you see that you can't get into that drive-through lane. The thought would be that they can come around the outside of this and then park or decide to go to the Taco Bell, who may have a slightly larger or shorter wait time. But the intention is not to create that bottleneck. I mean, we have provided for additional space here. If you add another car, there's at least a little bit, just over, probably overhang the crosswalk a little, if I'm being completely honest, but if you did have 5 cars there. I mean, what we're showing is 5 cars stacked from the first order window, plus another 2. You're 7, maybe 8, we're probably being fairly generous, can effectively fit in there and still have plenty of circulation move around it. I understand the concern, but I feel that I don't think you're gonna see that significant amount of an issue there, especially with your parking availability that's on this, at the shopping center right now, which is widely overparked.
And while we wouldn't want this, there is space in the parking lot to like go around any blockage. In the giant parking lot, like,
Yeah.
I mean, we don't want that, but if it would get gunked up, like, you can get around if you're trying to get to Taco Bell or into the grocery store, like, there's ways to not have that be a complete block area.
That's,
I mean,
I
we-
agree with you, I mean, that's not ideal.
No, it's not
So-
ideal, but
Have you, I mean, this would be backwards, but what if you flipped it?
To
You
come in
queued
over
on the
here.
opposite side, and you, instead of going around left, you went right.
Just to gain more.
That way, the queue, instead of needing to come out into the through lane, queues in the parking lot.
I guess I'd be concerned that someone's gonna just swing up through Taco Bell's. I feel like we create more of it.
No, so
issue.
you keep the same exact layout, but the queue, instead of having to plan south, happens to plan north.
Oh, so it's one way this way?
Yeah.
I mean, we'd have to flip the building, but
It'd be like the passenger side at the
You're,
window.
it's
Yeah.
backwards, yeah.
and you probably don't want the cars stacking up in the parking lot for people to have to cross
What does it say?
through.
Yeah, I mean, you're very limited in space.
we're pretty tight. I will say that there was a time that there was potential vehicular connection to be made here, and we blocked it off to try to encourage traffic to stay in here and not create more conflict. Do you remember that, Ben?
I do, yep.
And that was a pretty intentional decision, is to say you're in a really cramped spot here. Let's not try to exacerbate any issue. If somebody's in there, let's push them back out to the one point in the stop sign down here. So I think, I mean, it's, John, to your question, I mean, I think it is well studied. I do think you are constrained. I don't anticipate that you're gonna have a major backup at that point, but I don't have a crystal ball either.
Have we heard any reports of Taco Bell having any issues like that?
I've seen it backed up to Columbia Ave.
Just
Although-
depends on the time of day.
Although they told us it wouldn't, it did. The truck turning's also extremely tight. When do they typically get truck deliveries? And I'm assuming that won't ever happen during
It's off
rush
hours.
hour.
Yeah, early morning.
Any other thoughts or questions, comments?
Is there going to be freestanding signage for the restaurant?
The signage is generally on the building. There is that one freestanding sign as part of Stone Mill Plaza, which I would anticipate that they would advertise within, but not like a freestanding sign that's not.
Not like the
being
Taco
shared.
Bell has there.
Yeah, no, there's nothing proposed outside of what you're seeing.
Is there any objection to moving this to an action item this evening? Okay with it?
Yeah.
No, okay. I'm not sensing any more questions or comments? Okay. Would anybody like to make a motion then to move this forward?
I'd like to make a motion that we recommend to the Board of Supervisors that they, how do we word this? We don't need any,
It's
said
the
all the
land,
agreements are good.
it's the land development plan.
Just the land development plan approved.
That they take for consideration the land development plan, LTPC 316, top 5, for consideration. Sufficient?
Is that good, Ben?
Pending all certificates
Pending
to
all
be
certificates.
completed prior to.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah, pending addressing remaining comments in my review letter dated January 6th.
Is there a second?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Motion successfully is recommended.
Thank you very much again, and thank you for moving it to action.
Good luck.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it might be busier now that the other Popeyes is closed. Oh, never thought.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, look
I'm
at
just
that.
saying.
That's a tough one.
It's a tough spot.
Yeah.
All right, we will move on to LTPC 335, the Lancaster Township Public Works Facility. It's a land development plan and is an action item.
Devin Groff and I will be answering questions. Devin is the Public Works Superintendent for the township, and as you recall, we did have a briefing item discussion a couple meetings ago, and there have been some back and forth with the engineer who actually is working for Lancaster Township. I'm reviewing on behalf of the ordinances of Lancaster Township, but we feel as though all of the needed waivers and modification requests have been identified. There are 10 of them. And the remaining design issues are more administrative than anything else, making sure certain calculations are done. But there are also some aspects of the plan which are somewhat in flux that may involve a change in the design if the Public Works Department decides to move forward with those changes. It may involve other modification requests that we would need to come back to the Planning Commission for. One of those has to do with an existing salt shed foundation. This is a building that the township built probably 40 years ago, and then they decided to no longer use it because the metal was rusting on the inside of the salt shed, go figure. And they moved it to a timber structure, right?
Concrete structure, yeah.
Yeah, timber and concrete that's now existing up at the top of the building. That left the concrete pad that the metal building was sitting right there. And some township engineer came up with a lame brain idea of maybe using that as a detention basin if all you did was just connect the two existing concrete walls and you create a new bathtub. So maybe this is a good idea, maybe not, we'll see. But we're trying to save money on this project wherever we can. And as I said, if that involves more waiver modification requests, we'll need to come back to you. If you feel as though you wish to actually see that design before you recommend approval of the land development plan, that's perfectly appropriate. but it is a simple matter of stormwater management, grading. It is not a public use area where this change in the stormwater facility would be. This is an area that's simply used by the Public Works Department. So if you're in favor of approving the land development plan and we have to make modification requests, we'll be back. But if you approve the land development plan, I want to make sure you're aware of that potential change to the stormwater management design. Provided plans and review letter, so if there are questions you might have, or Devin, anything else you want to add?
No, I think you hit everything. The design was not terrible, Ben. It was a good idea.
Well, we don't know yet.
Yeah. But yes, yep.
Ben, can you point out where that is that you're talking about? You want me on here?
So the existing conditions plan would be the one that would show it best. That's this one right here. There's another sheet. Yeah, all right. So if I may point this out to everybody, I don't know if I can do this.
You're fine, you're fine.
All right, so this is sheet C102.
Demolition site plan.
C102. So you see Meadow Creek Lane is here, and the main drive into the facility is right here. It's between the Maple Grove pumping station and the little bungalow where Gretchen, John, and I work. So you go in that drive in the back, you go through the gate, and right here is a rectangle that simply labeled existing building to be removed. The metal shell building is gone. All that's there is just a concrete pad. So we're thinking that we could possibly retrofit that by adding 2 concrete walls to the outside and create a detention volume in that space, rather than ripping it all out and tearing up the hillside to create a new earthen basin. So we're waiting for the engineer to get back to us with what their thoughts are about how that impacts stormwater management.
It is above ground?
This would be above ground, yes, but above ground existing rather than tearing it out,
Right.
ripping up the hill, digging a new hole.
And
So-
you would take out the bottom of the concrete
Nope.
pad? No.
No,
Okay.
literally leave that concrete where it is and just connect 2 of the walls together and create a concrete bathtub. So,
So it would have 3 walls?
well, it has 2 walls
Has 2
there.
now.
Yeah, it has 2 walls there. This just connects those 2 walls. So
And the water would enter
the water would be piped in.
pipe in?
Yeah,
Okay.
and just like it would into a conventional above-ground detention basin.
Okay.
And then it would stay there for a while, be controlled, and then bled out slowly, more slowly than it enters.
And how do you manage the water quality of that sitting
You
water?
don't.
You don't?
Yeah, we would obviously maintain it so that it doesn't become a problem, but it's not a water quality feature. The water quality for the management of the stormwater would be achieved through the underground infiltration facility that's at the top of the hill that drains the main new building.
And how long would you think that you would be holding water?
We haven't worked through that,
That's-
but it would have to meet the township ordinance requirements or get relief from them.
How deep is it?
I would say it's probably, the existing walls are what, 3 or 4 feet high?
4 feet, yeah.
Yeah, we're not talking about extending those, and I don't know how deep it would need to be for stormwater, so we just haven't gotten that far.
Would there need to be some safety?
That's
Possibly.
definitely one of the conditions that we're
Okay.
looking at when we give the feedback.
Yeah.
Or it's already controlled facility from the out?
On the side that exists now, you are basically at ground level, or just a little above ground level. So we would have to do something to fencing or some side. If you're having a pool of water, you have to fence it off.
Well, we don't know how deep the water might possibly get,
Yeah.
so that has to be designed. It might only be 2 feet deep or 6 inches deep, we just don't know.
But there's a gate, there's a fence and a gate that's
No,
controlled, no?
no.
Okay.
There's a fence and a gate to keep vehicles from coming in
Coming
and
in,
out.
not people.
But people who are walking through the
Walk
park,
on that trail, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
they could come in and investigate.
Putting a new pool back at Maple Grove.
Oh, boy.
Would it
Tugging
require,
at my historian
That
heartstrings.
is not what we
would it
listened
require treatment for like insects or mosquitoes and like that?
It depends, that's part of what Angie was asking about for the number of hours for it to drain, so we need to work that out. But again, we're not 100% sure that this is a good idea or not, so. But we're gonna make sure it's a good idea if we're gonna do it.
I have a few questions because I was not at the meeting previously when this was presented. So I wanted to ask a question about the waiver number 9. The applicant is requesting modification of the requirement to depict the environmental or topographic features. What type of features or information are we talking about there that we're requesting not to include?
So those are the features that are identified in the Lancaster Township comprehensive plan.
Okay, so the issue is, the point is that they're presented someplace else.
But they've presented some of the information, some of the environmental and topographic features, but not all of them. Some of them, I'm in agreement, are because they're not within the work area, the area of disturbance, they don't need to be provided for the entire tract. Now, if this was a private developer who was doing things, we would want to make sure that all of these features are included. Since we hold all the risk for this, talked with Devin, talked with Mike Hamlin, who's the project manager, and we felt as though some of these other features outside of the work area within the tract would not need to be identified, would not need to be researched and gone through.
Like, just some example, like, can
Sure,
you give me an
that's-
idea of the things that you're talking about?
I'm trying to remember. Let me turn exactly to that.
I think a lot of this had to do with the land that exceeds up the whole way to Stone Mill Road, because the property itself is 14 acres, and the disturbance and the construction is a very small percentage of that. If I remember, it had to do with monuments and
Prime agricultural soils, underlying geology with any hazardous geology noted, floodplains, quarry sites, solid waste disposal areas, historic structures, cemetery or burial sites, archaeological sites, highly erosive soils, wooded areas, natural habitat, and PNDI sites. That's the section that is the list of things that we feel confident don't need to be researched and then depicted because we feel like they're not impacting the work area where the project is going to be impacted.
And this is outside the floodplain?
No, the entire
No.
tract is not
It's not.
outside of the floodplain.
But the work area?
The work area
is.
is.
Okay. And then another question I had was under stormwater management number 8. The design engineer identifies it's an area of non-impervious surface that's to bypass the stormwater management system.
I'm sorry, hang on, you were on to,
On the
Comment
last,
8,
on the
okay.
next to last
Yep.
page, number 8.
mhm.
He further explains that this area will be accounted for and offset by the capture of impervious areas to the proposed stormwater facility. Explicit explanation of this offset needs to be included in the report. Is that tied to the uncertainty of the facility that you were just discussing, or that's a separate issue?
No, that's a separate issue. It has to do with how the calculations have been crafted, how they've taken the analysis in the computer model and then written it into the narrative of the report. I didn't believe that that was adequately
Okay.
spelled out so that somebody in the future can follow how did that offset get accounted for in the overall stormwater design.
Okay, so that's purely a documentation, sounds like.
Yeah, but it's really important to me.
No, I'm not minimizing it, but that's what that comment was about. It's not, okay. And then I think my last question. So on C103, and again, I'm sorry because I missed the explanation in the last one. Is the gray all impervious, is that pavement imperviousness that we're adding? And so what is the change in the imperviousness from what we have now to the proposed plan?
So some of, if I may,
Yeah.
some of the, this is where new paving will be put down. Some of the existing paving will be ripped up and regraded, and then new paving will be put down. There are impervious areas that are not shown in gray, and those are the roof areas here and on some of the sheds. But this is all paving because the contractor needs to have a quantity and follow what that is.
So are we increasing imperviousness?
Yes,
Okay. And then that'll all be managed in the stormwater management plan.
correct.
I didn't see that we are taking any trees or any, like, what's the nature of the,
There are some trees that are going to be removed, some trees that have not survived since they were planted, and all of those are proposed to be replaced in kind with what's existing.
well, I've used up all my questions. So do you guys have any questions or comments? No? Okay. Then, would somebody like to make a motion regarding this plan
And the modification
and the
request.
modification request?
I'll
Yeah.
make that motion. I motion that we approve the 10 waiver and modification request for LTPC 335 and recommend approval for the land development plan to the Board of Supervisors.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those, any opposed? Okay. So Ben, if there is changes, you would come back. We didn't have to specify that we wanted to. If there's other
If there is
trigger
other modification
requests.
requests, yes. Yep.
All right. Well, thank you. All right. We'll move on to the last plan on the agenda. It's LTPC 340, the Wheaton Middle School sketch plan, and this is a briefing item.
I'm back once again with Connie King from Murata Maine Architects, Matt Shields from the School District of Lancaster, and we're going to hook up some visuals here. But we had submitted a sketch plan.
Do you want to record Steve or not? Okay.
Right there.
Tony, your assistance
Tony's
is
fault.
needed.
All right. Do a little more.
Ah, crap, I'm sorry. See what happens when I get involved, John?
Devin's coming for your job, Tony.
Really got to step down for him. In the most literal way. Bingo. Sorry.
So yeah, we had recently submitted a sketch plan for a new Wheatland Middle School on the campus where Smith Waydell Elementary is. It's about 40 acres between two properties. Hamilton Park Drive is a private road that's part of the school's property. And we had submitted this, and Township staff gave us the opportunity to come here and go over this with you as a briefing item. They have not had time to do a formal review at this point. We'll hope to come back in February after they've had a chance to look at it more thoroughly. We did have a staff meeting, introduce them to the project, kind of walk them through what we were thinking and where we are. We wanted to take that opportunity to go through that with you guys this evening. So it's a big project, so we want to get feedback early on as we go forward with this. So different scenarios were looked at as far as renovating the existing Wheatland Middle School and doing additions, renovations, et cetera. And the best outcome was determined by SDOL to be to construct a new school. And so on the site plan that you're looking at here, just to orient you, Smith Waydell is to the east here.
Steve, you can stand on this side
Yep.
so that
Smith Waydell is to the east. The new Wheatland Middle School would be to the west. This is the access drive that goes down to 999. 5th Street, as that was extended as part of the Smith Waydell project from West End Avenue, and then Hamilton Park Drive and Atkins Avenue on the west side. And the new school, and we have a lot of visuals, and we'll go through these, but just to give you a high-level overview, the new school is designed to basically sit parallel with Smith Waydell to kind of complement that, have a similar layout as far as drop-offs and access around the building for parking, et cetera. It'll be a 3-story building as it faces Hamilton Park Drive, and then it'll have a second wing that'll come off about 1.5 stories, about 9 feet from the first floor going to the rear, which will have like the gym and the creative art spaces and things like that. And that'll go into the hillside.
Where's your current building?
The current building is right here
Okay.
on the north side of Hamilton Park Drive. Yeah, and maybe it would be helpful, actually, we have a video that I think will be really helpful to illustrate what we're doing. Rodney's prepared this. So just to orient briefly here, this is Hamilton Park Drive again, Smith Waydell, and then this is the existing Wheatland Middle School. So as this progresses, you'll see the construction of the new school and then the demolition of old Wheatland and the associated site plan improvements.
Okay.
Should have had some music with this.
Yeah. Clock in the background, it's like a school. Perfect setting.
So is that stadium like the football and track field, is that unaltered?
Correct. Yeah, that would all be unaltered. So hopefully that gives everyone a good general sense of what's being proposed here. So to go back to the layout, we also wanted to look at, of course, the new school, which will have a slightly larger population. There's going to be some changes with the existing Martin K-8 buildings, some redistribution of the grades there. And then, Matt, we're also doing some redistricting district-wide, so that'll accommodate for a lot of that. But there will be a few additional students at this school and a little bit of additional capacity associated with the middle school. So. But as far as like the walkers and everything like that, the folks that continue to go here will continue to go here. So, with the site layout plan, we wanted to look at the circulation to try to improve some existing situations. The existing circulation for Wheatland isn't great for parent drop-offs and buses. We had addressed the circulation for the Smith Waydell project when we did that land development plan. It was called Buchanan at the time. There's also been some I would say inefficiencies with that design as far as unanticipated numbers of parent drop-offs and pickups, a little bit higher than what was initially anticipated, and that's common for a lot of the schools that we work on. So as part of this plan, we're also looking at some improvements to alleviate that situation as well as part of this project. So, Connie, if you could go to maybe the circulation one, which is 2 down. Yeah, that one would be perfect. Yeah, perfect. So just to walk through the circulation intent with this plan for cars, and we'll go through the pedestrians as well. But For cars, what we're proposing is a drop-off loop on the north side of the new Wheatland School for parents for drop-off and pickup. Those parents would come in from West End Drive for the pickup. They would also be able to come in the mornings from Atkins and Hamilton Park Drive and circulate through the site and exit out back through to Hamilton Park Drive to Atkins, to West End Drive, or down to the signal at
Are
999.
they using the alley
No.
on that route?
No, that's an existing access drive that goes down to
That's
Wheatland Middle
the
School. That's
access
going to get
drive.
modified as part of this plan and reconfigured, but no, they're not going to use
That's
that.
not-
It would all be within the site. So that's the circulation for drop-offs, and then for pickups, all traffic and riders would be directed to come in from West End Avenue and Fifth Street. And the reason for that is that will allow ample stacking throughout the site to get through here to account for like elongated queuing for pickup areas. And as part of that also, we're proposing a temporary gate that would be at the intersection there with Hamilton Park Drive for Atkins that would be closed off for the PM pickup only. And that would enforce all the parent pickups to queue in the appropriate area. It would avoid any short circuiting of anybody trying to cut the line, so to speak, from Atkins Avenue. So those folks in the afternoon would come in from Fifth and West End. They could exit back out to the same point. I think most likely, I think the vast majority of them would go out to the traffic light at 999.
You anticipate people parking there at the Atkins gated portion?
We hope not. I don't think parking is prohibited there, but that's something we may
You
want to
have
talk to the
people that park
township.
there, there's buses that come through there, and there's a lot of people that walk through.
I mean, parking for pickup, people maybe not getting out of their cars, but sitting there waiting, I could see that.
Yeah.
Yes. There are people that do park there.
But-
There isn't much space. That is a pinch point because the resident that lives in that home has two vehicles that does street parking, and then the other family that is across the street from them does have a very large vehicle that sometimes is encroaching in the drive.
And the traffic engineer that we have engaged with this project has been out to the site too, and he's observed, and he said, yeah, there's a lot of issues out there, and that's one of the issues that he certainly brought up. So that's one thing we're trying to address with this plan, is to make that safe for pedestrians to go through. That will be open, there'll be a walkway that'll go at least to the property line. There's no sidewalk on that part of Hamilton Park Drive as it becomes public, and it's very narrow, like you said, it would be difficult, I think, to put in sidewalks there based on the existing conditions. But that's.
Why limit the gate to the PM only?
In the morning, there's usually not an issue with drop-offs, like cars, and this is what they've experienced at Smith Waydell. People come in, they're out, there's no stacking, there's no really concerns. So if people wanted to come in and drop off from this area, this time we don't see any concerns with them doing that.
Just from living on Atkins, I could tell you that flow during the morning during the school year is very noticeably different than flow on the street outside of the school year. I would be in favor of having that gate closed during AM and PM.
For drop-off and pickup. Okay.
There's currently no restriction on where parents can queue for pickup. Like, people are coming in for pickup right now from all three directions
No, for Wheatland, they would only be able to come in from West End Drive, Fifth Street.
currently, or it would.
Proposed plan.
But currently, there's no, people can access
Currently, there's
every
no
direction.
restrictions, yeah.
Is there any concern, like, I don't have a great sense of how far cars would stack. Are they stacking all the way out to West End Avenue if they're only allowed in from that one point?
We hope not, but we want to provide enough stacking area because we know they've had issues at Smith Waydell with not enough stacking space. So we're providing, like, hopefully what's going to be excessive stacking space to avoid any issues on the areas. And that's the whole point, and we'll get into that with Smith Waydell in a moment also. All of buses will come in from West End Drive and leave through West End Drive and Fifth Street, and there's a dedicated bus lane that'll serve both schools. That's separate from Hamilton Park Drive. And then we're also going to realign the parking on Hamilton Park Drive. Instead of the diagonal parking that ideally you're supposed to back in, but it's like half and half, that's just going to become 90-degree parking on either side. So the buses will be separate. There'll be pickup for both schools in that area. And then we're also making some modifications to how Smith Waydell works, because that is an issue sometimes with pickup and stacking and cars getting closer out onto 999. So there's the loop in the west side of the school, which is the one that's currently used. And there's also a parking area on the south side of the school. And what we're proposing to do is to break up the dismissal by grade. So for example, like K through 2 might come out the west side of the school, 3rd through 5th might come out the south side of the school. We'll eliminate some of the parking spaces in this area, make that a concrete area, and add an additional turn lane just as you get past the water tower to allow more stacking. So that'll allow for like 900 feet of additional stacking for certain grade levels for Smith-Waddell. This will take a little bit of getting used to and education from the school district to guide people. We'll have additional stop bars and stop signs to keep these intersections clear so cars can exit. But we're hoping that this is going to alleviate that issue and make that a much smoother process. And then all of the car drivers for Smith-Waddell would then come in and exit from the traffic light at 999. So that's the intent with that. Now, there's also, we're adding some additional parking. We're removing a few parking spaces on the south side of Smith-Waddell, but we're also going to add additional parking on the south side of the parking lot, add additional parking in front of the school by the drop-off area, and then also the northeast side, because even though we meet the zoning ordinance requirements for parking for Smith-Waddell, there's been some issues too where faculty might park in the access lanes and things like that, so we're trying to address that as well. Overall, from a campus standpoint, we're going to be over-parked, and we're just trying to be proactive with that and anticipate. We need about 213 spaces. We're going to provide closer to 300. There's also an area for bus parking. Kind of keep the zoom up just a little bit. They have buses that park here that serve parts of the district, so we're also providing for bus parking for the full size and then the shorter buses in that area as well. So that's the general circulation concept that we're looking at right now. And again, we had a traffic engineer do counts for both pedestrians and for cars to see people are coming and going in the morning and the afternoon, total volumes of vehicles. This is going to change that a little bit, but we think that we should be able to make better use of the traffic signal at 999 with this plan.
What's the increased number of students?
Maybe 100-ish, I think, Matt, but you can...
Correct. We don't anticipate more than 100 because this aligns with a project that will run parallel to this for a consolidated elementary school in a different municipality. And with that, and the change from Martin from a K-8 to a K-5, it would align with the district reboundary of students to all, pretty much all of our schools except for the high school. So we'll shuffle all students around for most of the schools and try to equal out the number of buildings, the number of students in each building to equal class sizes across the district. So in total, we don't believe we would anticipate more than 100 students in addition to what's already.
But aren't there 3 classrooms of each grade level, 6, 7, and 8 in that building?
I believe that is what we're designing for, right? Three top.
For the middle school?
Yeah.
The same number of teams will be there in the new school that are in the existing school. So each grade has 2 teams with 4 classrooms each. That will remain. So they'll absorb the additional students in those teams, and then there'll be additional unified arts classes added to help with the scheduling of the students. Because I think right now the enrollment's 430 or so, and it's sized for a 600 student school. So it's
The new building, the proposed building.
the current is with modulars and all of that, designed to fit 600, and there's 430 or so.
Okay.
The new is going to be designed for a maximum of 700 students, but they will maintain those same kind of grade level teams.
Right, but what I'm saying is that at Martin currently,
Oh, yeah.
there are 3 classrooms in each grade level that then would have to be absorbed into Wheatland's.
Not all of those students would come over to Wheatland. Some of this is a district-wide effect, so that we're shuffling between all of the schools.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't.
Yeah, it's not a direct take and place.
Rebalance
So
all 4 middle
we're
schools.
rebalancing all 4 middle schools with the reboundary.
Can you speak to how this change of plans from renovating to building a new school on that site took in public input from the community? Like, I live here in Hamilton Park, and I don't think that there was any public outreach to discuss these changes, or what, consider altering, we have Buchanan sitting there, it's empty, I think.
No, Price is
No,
actually
Price is there.
occupying that.
So what's the future plan for that? Like, what other alternatives did you consider than consuming open space in this site?
There were a series of meetings called Pumpkins and Possibilities for all of the affected schools, so Martin, Wheatland, Smith, Waddell, Hamilton, Price. I don't know how those were advertised, but.
Yeah, if you don't have students in the school.
Yes, we had 6 public meetings overall to go over the planning for all of the different projects.
Historically, the district always has community forum meetings. We just completed them prior to Borough's opening and had attendance from the neighboring communities. We typically do not have those meetings until after we get preliminary approval to move forward with the project. And so at that point, we do advertise and send out flyers and communication to a certain radius outside of the building to be affected, and then we do host a public forum meeting.
I think you're underappreciating, though, the value of this open space to the community. And if there were other options, like what's left here is that big field inside of Bus Lane that provides what value? Like what is that going to be? What is that going to be used for? It's an open grass space?
No.
And-
If you go,
Yeah, I'm gonna go
oh, give me
back
my
here.
ones, yeah. Go to the next sheet. So there's a great differential between Wheeland, like the south end and the north end,
Right,
right? So
yeah.
that will remain. This is a preliminary grading plan, but those will be the stormwater management facilities in that area, and some gardens as well, like some gardens for the kids. But there will be a grade change in embankment, stormwater facilities. This area in between is going to be a walkway from the lower parking area to the upper parking area. Marin's developing concepts for that to try to make that as interesting as possible, and maybe use that for outdoor classroom space as well. So it'll be an accessible route as well that'll also be able to be used by students, as well as like a stairway between the upper and the lower levels.
Doesn't seem like that's going to be a great value for that space, though. Like for the real estate that is there, that we have accessible to people. The building, I would have liked to see a much more compressed footprint, that like there's open space with that walkway between the two wings. If that's not there, you don't maybe have to take as much as that tree line that provides some decent habitat in that park. But it just doesn't seem to have value that is a resource to the community that can't be replaced once it's developed. I think we all recognize that Wheatland needs a solution, but there's a field there, there's a big parking lot. I don't know what is the future for Buchanan for that building up there once Price isn't needed there?
It's kind of under review right now. Price is in there until the consolidated elementary school will be built over on the Hamilton site in Lancaster City. And then it's possible that King Elementary School could move into the Buchanan building as a swing school while their project, either renovation or a replacement building, is being done. So it'll probably be 6 years or so.
So it's
that
flex,
building will
it's
still
flex
be used.
space essentially for
I
others.
think the only other thing I'd add to your point is we worked for, I don't know, months on different ways to add to existing Wheatland.
Or to try to build in the other field, which was too small, so. yeah.
To accommodate the program and the added students. And we ended up with a hodgepodge addition of 5 different pieces added onto the building. It was still a sprawling building, and we looked at a big 3-story addition in the front yard, but that created 4 different levels that the students would have to travel to get down to the gym. So we were really trying to make that work for a while and just running into all kinds of roadblocks. It also was pushing way over, toward the neighborhood as well on this end. So we did kind of shift gears. We looked at the field down south of Buchanan, and we pivoted back to this just because we have a relatively flat area up here. We were looking to create that streetscape with Smith Waddell. So this is kind of where we have landed at this point in time. Anything else to add?
I'm surprised they can't fit in that field hockey / softball field.
The building footprint really is is really not fitting in there, just the footprint of the building itself. And I just, we were really pushing to try to look at the renovation addition option, but you would have students traveling 4 stories. And there's just a lot of vertical challenges in that building. It really didn't work well from an educational standpoint, trying to, make sure this school functions as well as other projects like Lincoln, where you've got your academic wing, you've got your teams in place, and then you have your unified art areas. And so that's really, there were a lot of options that were reviewed with the existing building, and you really couldn't get that educational parity out of that structure, which left you with removing that structure, but then no place for those students, to house students during the project.
I think the last point to make to your comments, we have this kind of connector, and we have a similar thing at Smith Waddell, mainly to keep daylight into most of the classrooms, so that these areas on each side of that connector have daylight into all of the spaces.
Just wondering, when was it that you guys did the traffic study, especially the pedestrian one? Because to my understanding, that was a day that school was not in session, so it was much less pedestrian traffic that would have occurred that day. So I think that the information may have been skewed.
I didn't get the date, but
This is the vehicular one. The numbers that we have from our thing would support that school is very likely in session when they did this. So I'm just going to step over here for a minute. But like, for example, there are 143 students entering from this direction in the morning, 197 leaving. So from the other walkway into West End, there's 18 entering, 35 leaving, 30 leaving to 999, 16 entering, and all around. So there's pretty substantial numbers associated with that. One pattern we notice is that there's more exiting than leaving, probably because more kids are getting dropped off in the morning and walking home. That's what that data would support. But we can ask the traffic engineer, we did it, but the numbers do support, I would think, school day.
it could be that, I know they made a walkthrough on one day, and then another day they installed the cameras. So I don't know if the day that the cameras were installed was the same day the counts were taken. So we can check the
We can
date
definitely
to
find
make
out.
sure it was during school.
Did you consider using the field on 999 by the water, like on the other side of the water tower? That wouldn't be right on a community, like right
I
so
think
close
that's
to the
township
community.
and not
Yeah,
district property.
Currently, part of that, while it's school district property, it's part of the lease agreement for the park. And we, with this current plan, we don't have to renegotiate or discuss the boundaries with what's proposed of the current parcel.
The remainder of that is the stormwater basin for Smith Waddell.
Yeah, no, I know a portion of it is the stormwater basin, but then that frontage there is relatively unused by anybody. So that was the area that I was wondering about.
With this proposed plan, is there any plan to create possibly a walkway or a sidewalk for students? Because at this point, there are a number of students and families that walk through Alley X to come through that live in Hamilton Park, that would come up Spring Grove and then cross over and walk this alley. But there's also now traffic that is trying to circumvent going to Spencer and coming around this way. And I personally have walked that way and have had a number of vehicles like give me dirty looks because I'm walking in an alleyway. So I'm just wondering if there is any way that they could provide a walkway, because the track is right there and it's really not used since we no longer have middle school sports. They are all kind of being bused to the campus. If this isn't going to be upgraded or touched, if that could at least be something that they would consider.
Yeah, I think we actually have considered that preliminarily. So this is a pedestrian like movement plan showing like the existing sidewalks and access to and out of the site. And one of the plans is to do exactly what you described there, is to put a parallel walkway adjacent to the alley. Because that does connect to areas that do have sidewalks to the north.
Yes.
You're gonna expand the alley, is that what you're saying?
No, it would be a walkway on the school property.
In the alley?
No,
Next.
next to it.
Beside the
East
alley,
and
inside of
south.
the fenced area.
So inside, so on the school property inside of the fence, so the fence would separate the walkway and the alley?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a pretty nice bank on that,
Yeah.
inside the existing fence right now.
Like standing in the alley, you can't see it over the bank to see that field. So I'd like to see the grading on that walkway.
Yeah, we'll look at that.
Does the track and the football fields stay that way, or are there improvements planned for that facility?
No improvements as part of this plan. Maybe long-term athletically, but not as part of this plan.
But that wasn't considered for building space and relocating that to a different location either.
I don't think we have a big enough flat area for that anywhere else.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm on the same page with Angie, and that this swath of trees is one of the last remaining swaths in this area. And it'd be a shame to see it go. I've seen a number of foxes that live in that area, which are great to see in the neighborhood. I would like to see a realistic attempt or a sketch plan of what it looks like to put the school in the ball field there. I mean, that feels like a logical place to put it, and even if it needs to come out into I guess it's a driveway that's adjacent to the wall of the school there. What's the school to the north? Buchanan, yeah. So the road that connects around Buchanan up to Maple, or I guess it's Ryder Ave,
Ryder Avenue, yeah.
stops being public dedicated right of way at the edge of the school district's property.
Yes.
So when you considered putting the school in that area, did it encroach out into Ryder Ave? Or I guess the driveway?
In this area?
To the north there.
In this area here, John?
Yeah.
Yeah, if we
That
had,
feels like a ample space.
if we move the footprint of the school over there, I don't think it quite fits, and then there's no space around here for parking or drop off. I think what we could provide is kind of the history of the additions that we looked at, even if it's just kind of a footprint of each, and when we looked at placing this in other locations on the site, so we would have that.
Yeah, I mean, it would be nice to see some kind of feasibility as why that is not feasible over this one. And to the public input having importance at the early stages when you are looking for public input, that is a great example of what might come out of that before going down.
I'm not sure about the history of this, but I think we're kind of past that point. The public injection phase seems like it's already passed. Is that?
I mean, I would agree with that, which is what I'm saying is very important to include the public very early on before getting to this stage of all of this design.
Yeah, I think it's one thing if you're renovating a building, keeping within kind of the footprint that you're at, but when it's building on an area that has a different use right now to the community, I think there's a little bit more onerous to make sure that that public has that feedback.
Well, speaking to the trees that they're talking about, since that is district property, if they do remove part of that, are they willing to plant other trees to provide the barrier for the families that are there, so that they can feel more comfortable and have retain some of that privacy that they do have, and also keep it aesthetically pleasing?
Yeah, have you shared this with the adjacent property owners?
Not specifically reach out to the property owners.
But to the first part, one of the reasons for moving the building as far to the east as we could is to provide space, and then we do intend to plant as many trees as practical on that side. You know, so one will meet the ordinance requirement. You have to replace a certain amount of trees, a certain percentage of trees over a certain caliber that you take down. We'll definitely meet that, and then we'll also do whatever we can. I think this district's committed to doing that, whatever they can on that side. To
You
create
can
that
replace
buffer.
trees, but you can't replace kind of the open space habitat that will, you know, you put a building right next to it and it's not gonna have that same value that it currently serves, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think they're able to push any of that tree line back because there's a
There's an easement on
a
it.
There's a
sanitary sewer easement.
Yeah.
Well, as a briefing item, I think we've given a lot of feedback. Are there any other additional thoughts? Ben, do you have any closing comments?
No, I'm just really pleased with the discussion, the openness that we've gotten, your thoughts that'll help to guide some of what the township staff does, as well as what the school district considerations are. So I know we might feel a little awkward about kind of feeling at odds, but as long as we're all open and sharing our thoughts, we'll get where we need to be.
Yeah, we appreciate if you have any of that background information that you've gone through to help us understand what you've been through and
Yeah.
all the things that you've considered. That would be good for us to have the background, to understand.
I would just note that at the high school level, they do have 4 levels. So I don't think that it is out of reach to have a student walk multiple levels to get to where they need to go. Just to
No,
kind of keep that in mind.
I've got one over in that high school, but we'll show you the cross sections. It's a very awkward building, so yeah, we'll get those cross sections for you. Yep.
Thanks
Okay,
very much.
well, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night, Steve.
Thanks.
You probably open with that one and then with the other
You
two.
sure you don't have any more, Steve?
I'm sure he doesn't.
Okay, we have a new business item for discussion regarding the local commercial zoning ordinance. That's still part of
This
the
is what
public.
you've all been waiting for all night.
Yes,
You've been
that's
pretty
why we're
excited
here.
about it, I know.
Yes.
I think it was last month's meeting, it was more or less put in motion about doing some work with the zoning ordinance. I had a pretty lengthy discussion with the manager, Mr. Ladine. Our suggestion right now, because of all the big projects going on, we really would like to stay away from doing a comp plan, a full review of everything right now. And we would recommend that the commission look more at ordinances. Specifically, if we were to ask for a certain one to maybe kind of in the front, would be the local commercial. There's some things that we've been experiencing requests for. One item is we've got some areas that are zoned local commercial that people have existing single-family dwellings in, and they're looking to continue that, but the property has changed hands. Some of them want to change them into Some of them are two bedroom or two apartments into from to a multifamily, and local commercial doesn't really allow that right now. With the housing the way it is in the county, affordable housing, we feel like that might be something good that we can kind of open up some more affordable housing to the public. So we're not opposed to even perhaps overlays. It's not something we've done a lot here, but it's not something we're necessarily opposed to. An overlay would be, we could have an ordinance that would allow us to overlay that, in this case, like the local commercial. It would allow us to have some extra, just some wiggle room to do some things that maybe currently are not allowed or permitted by ordinance. Of course, people have the ability to go to the zoning hearing board seeking relief, but we would like to try and make this something that they don't have to go through that process. Zoning hearing board is costly for people to go through, and there's no guarantee, so they can invest a lot of time and money into the process and not get the relief that they're looking for. And we would like to maybe see that as just a permitted use. So Tony has come up with a map here.
I'm sorry, John, can you explain overlay one more time? Can you say that again?
So I'm new to that as well, so I'm going to use just general description. So basically, we would have an ordinance that would allow for to be overlaid, for instance, the local commercial. So it would, if you're applying under that overlay, you would be able to do certain things by a permitted use. It's going to address mostly the use. If I'm not mistaken, the open or the campus is an overlay. No, it's not.
We don't have any overlay districts.
Okay.
Does that mean there's two designations in one area?
It means
Is that what we're talking about?
there's a zone that's placed on top of an existing zone that's overlay. Some ordinances you'll see like steep slopes overlay district, which is trying to capture all of the steep slopes in the township without having to designate it to one zone, or natural features overlay.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Could you zoom in to the portion of basically Hamilton Park across from Hamilton Watch Company?
Like the whole West Street lots, is that what you're talking about?
Right there, yeah. To me, that feels like an obvious area that probably all shouldn't be zoned local commercial. At least the areas that are completely surrounding neighborhoods. It feels like an easy place to maybe rezone or create a new zone.
Talking about these three properties?
Yeah, and I mean, because there's also those residential units that are next to the Sunoco to the north right there, right to the right.
Okay.
Yeah. That feels like,
Where is this? I'm not sure. Where's the snow?
So this is West Street.
Okay.
This is Copper Cup. No, this is
Dominion.
Copper
Dominion.
Cup is
Dominion,
here.
Turkey
Copper
Hill.
Cup over here. Thank you. Turkey Hill.
What's the name of the Italian place down there?
Dominions.
No, to the south.
Valentino's.
Valentino's.
Yeah, down here.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Elm.
Atkins to the left there.
I need street names.
We did a rezoning a few years ago for these, as well as did a zoning ordinance amendment to try to facilitate bloom box coming in.
So they previously weren't local commercial?
Correct.
They were residential?
I think they were residential.
I was thinking about this a little, and it would feel like a natural fit for that area would be some kind of mixed use that captures the character of the surrounding neighborhood, like a village mixed use district, so which allows residential, but also encourages the use of commercial that fits, small commercial that fits and complements the use of the neighborhood. So someone wanting to go to a cafe, like Copper Cup being right there, or while also providing the opportunity for housing.
Yeah, I think that would be a good use, a good set of regulations that could be deployed elsewhere in the township. On the east side, there's a lot of areas where you've got residential as well as commercial, semi-industrial uses in that area.
And those are local commercial right now?
Yeah, there's local commercial and then there's R3 residential. Yeah.
I think it's R2.
R2, thank you.
John, when you introduced this topic, you talked about some tensions that happen now. Were you talking about multifamily occurring in local commercial?
So one of the
properties?
things we've been getting calls, I mean, some of the properties are on the east side along King Street. The structures currently they were designed originally as single-family dwellings, but they're large dwellings, so there's a desire to break them into multifamily. Currently, they can't do that without going to the zoning hearing board. We have one that it says he intends to do that, is going to go through the zoning hearing board. We kind of like to see, some of, in that case, it's not an unreasonable request, given the size of the structure and so forth. Now, if they're going to go with the more than 3 or more units, it becomes commercial. So they're going to go through the work of making it a commercial structure for the apartments. That's a lot of investment. If they're willing to do that, we feel like we can maybe streamline that a bit to not necessarily encourage, but to help people through the process a little smoother. Really the way it's zoned currently, because it's changed over the years, the way it is currently with the local commercial, it's really not designed for residential at all. But we're saying we should probably look at making it available, to have the ability to go residential.
So there's no residential allowance in local commercial zoning districts?
I think there is the exception. It's a permitted use if commercial's with residential.
Yes, there's definitely that where it's a mixed use where like the traditional storefront on the first floor and above it is living quarters.
But as compared to like a typical mixed use zone, by outright, a permitted use is a single family dwelling, while also allowing a permitted use as some kind of small commercial. Whereas this zone, single family dwelling is not a permitted use. Or multi-family dwelling. Any
So I say
type of-
there's single family.
They're
but they're multi-family.
non-conforming existing uses.
Correct. So there, Ben might know approximately when they were built.
Some of them in the late 1800s, yeah.
So
Before there was a
they're
zone.
exactly they're non-conforming, pre-existing, so they're allowed to stay there. If, for instance, if one of them was damaged by like a fire or some sort of disaster that would damage the structure, we wouldn't necessarily allow them to rebuild it, but we're not going to force them to stop the current use that was already existing prior to the zoning change.
Okay. So I grew up right down there. I know I've walked past houses. Okay.
And we really would like to see some of those historic resources refurbished. There's some really remarkable architecture if you look at it closely and start to, oh my gosh, but it looks shabby.
There's no historic district in our zoning ordinance that I recall. Is
Not
there?
a historic district, no.
Okay.
But our historic preservation regulations are written into our unfortunately named demolition review ordinance. So, but that encompasses alterations to historic resources as well. We have a historical commission that reviews things. So as David is going to be getting very aware. David, thank you again for joining the planning commission and serving on the historical commission as well. So,
You really got your first meeting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
This is a short one, don't worry.
You must really like Ben.
I actually do, yeah.
Tony's scoffing.
So, I mean, I think at this point, I just kind of wanted to plant the seed, let you guys kind of consume and think about this. We're not in a rush of any kind, knowing that we have some big projects coming before the commission. We're not looking to take on another big project while those are still going. At least from this standpoint, we can kind of take our time and there's no rush to get that done. We can address things as they come in. If someone purchases a property and wants to do something, we can address that under the current system. As is, there's a mechanism there we can move forward with. Might not be the best, but it's what we have right now. And the important thing is we do have something in place to get them there. And if we can come up with something to revise zoning, great. And we'll address the other ones until then.
Just so I understand, like, the way you're seeing it so far, there's the potential to bring some meaningful housing supply if we update the zoning ordinances to accommodate housing, more housing by right. In other, mostly in local commercial, or are you seeing that possibility in other zoning districts too?
I don't want to say it's not just local commercial. Local commercial is probably the biggest one that we should consider making those alterations to, because it really doesn't allow for much residential at all.
Right.
Another thing that we discussed that should probably at some point be a discussion for the commission, and I think is something that would help in that situation with the number of housing. Currently our limit is 3-story structures. So if someone wants to build an apartment building, it's 3 stories. What the trend that we're seeing in the county as well as other areas is starting to go higher because it's a smaller footprint and more housing. There's an offset to that because you also have to deal with parking, but those are things that we can work with.
Fire apparatus.
Yeah.
Are you required to put an elevator in anything over a certain amount?
I think it's any multi-floor commercial. Not 100%, but I think that's what it is.
Yeah, I think there's value in having a local commercial district that's separate from, one where we're intending to put some kind of mixed, desired mixed use where we're allowing by right residential, but also allowing commercial, where it may be beneficial to explore the idea of creating a new zone and adding one to our current zoning ordinance and map. In my experience, overlay districts can become difficult to interpret and are subject to heavy interpretation. It would be more clear, and I think for general public to have a separate zone, just from my experience.
Okay.
Are you aware of the county having any type of model zoning ordinance?
Yes. So I don't know if it's complete and fully through their process. They did
They're working on one now.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure where they're at with it. They came to our zoning officers meeting a few months back, and that was still relatively early in the process of kind of pushing out what they look like. I I felt like a lot of what they had on the model that I saw was not necessarily something that would fit well here, but that's not to say there wouldn't be pieces that we might be interested in or would be beneficial from some of their models that we would pull into some of our existing or perhaps a new.
Yeah, I was thinking if they had a zone, like a mixed-use village or something that we could pull from, at least as a starting point, would be
Sure.
helpful.
I can look into getting that, or at least getting a link and sending it out to you.
Yeah. While we're on the topic of zoning, and it's a hot topic right now, is there permitted use for a data center in our zoning ordinance that you're aware of?
Not specifically addressing data centers. The only thing that would probably kind of potentially would be the industrial. I have the little bit, I've sat through a few classes on the data centers. I really don't think what we have, I can't think of anywhere in the township that would be appealing to a data center coming in. That doesn't mean they wouldn't try, they wouldn't consider something. I just don't see, I can't think of any properties that would be really, from what I've seen and heard that they're looking for, that really match what we have.
Well, it would probably be beneficial for us to then put it in, make an amendment to the industrial to make it a permitted use. Because if there is no permitted use for a specific use, then that applicant has the opportunity to propose that use in any district as a special exception. So per use not permitted, the state allows anyone to come in. There's case law that backs it up that anyone can come in by a special exception, which it only protects the township to direct it into a zone that you want it to be in.
It sounds like this is my area of expertise. I know what you're getting at. I would be surprised if there's not a district in which, if an applicant said there's no place in the district that it could be done, like most zoning ordinances don't address data centers specifically. It would probably be the best fit in industrial, and maybe there's another. I don't know if there's a case to be made to read it into one of the other commercial-oriented districts. But I don't think it's necessarily incumbent upon the township to affirmatively greenlight data centers specifically in a particular district, as long as there's one that could be read to accommodate that. Also, if we didn't, if there was nothing that worked for it, doesn't mean they have carte blanche to put it wherever they want either. It's a little bit more nuanced than that. Be a good thing for the solicitor to offer an opinion on at some point, though, since data centers are the hottest thing on the block right now.
Certainly are.
I think that's all I have for you.
Okay.
And certainly look to move forward with it at some point, but we've had a long night already. I don't want to drag that further if we don't need to, but I know it's something that you guys will need to think about and mull over too, so.
Okay. Okay, any old business to provide updates on? Or announcements?
Yeah, some
announcements.
procedural mostly that I'd like to do once we've concluded the broadcast.
Okay, well then, do I need a motion to adjourn?
Oh, do we have any, is there any more comments? No. All right.
Any more comments from anybody? We had public comments earlier.
We did,
Okay.
yes.
All right. Do I need to officially hammer that gavel?
If you wish, that's fine.